That it, We're just going to listen to the remainder of Joshua. So let's get started. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, Jehovah, for another beautiful day on your beautiful earth. And thank you for allowing us to wake up today. And thank you for what you did for us in the past, present, and what you will do for us in the future. Continue to help Danielle's nephew Nathan and his family in a sad time in their life of the passing of Nathan. Please give them physical and mental strength to get through the life. Continue to help Tate with the heart condition and cancer, and the rest, Cindy Lee, Lisa, King Charles, Princess Kate, and Jen's friend Shannon, all who have cancer. And Celine Dion, who has stiff person syndrome. She's doing wonderful. She sang at the Olympics, opening ceremonies. Continue to help Jenny. Christina and her daughter, Tiffany, Robin, and all the ailments that they have and the sadness in the life and pain. Miss Diane and daughters, Arnie, Vicky and family, Carol and the mom. Please help them. In Jesus' name, amen. Sorry. I grabbed the dog wrong. Her habit is when she wants to be picked up, she backs away after. When I go reach for her. And then I go reach for her, she backs away. And then she gets mad when I back off myself. Huh. Well, you can't back away. You're gonna let me pick you up. Okay? Alright, let's listen to the book. 13. Right? Yep.
Chapter 13.
Look, let's turn you up.
Now Joshua had grown old and was advanced in years. So Jehovah said to him, "You have grown old and are advanced in years, but much of the land remains to be taken in possession. This is the land remaining, all the regions of the Philistines and all the Geshurites, from the branch of the Nile that is east of Egypt, up to the border of Ekron to the north, which used to be considered Canaanite territory, including that of the 5 lords of the Philistines, the Gazites, the Ashdodites, the Ashkelonites, the Gittites, and the Ekronites, that of the Avim to the south, all the land of the Canaanites, Me'ara, which belongs to the Sidonians, as far as Aphek, to the border of the Amorites, the land of the Gebalites, and all of Lebanon toward the east, from Baal-Gad at the base of Mount Hermon to Lebo-Hamath, all the inhabitants of the mountainous region from Lebanon to Misrephoth-Maim, and all the Sidonians. I will drive them out before the Israelites. You have only to assign it to Israel as an inheritance, just as I have commanded you. Now you must apportion this land as an inheritance to the 9 tribes and the half-tribe of Manasseh. With the other half-tribe, the Reubenites and the Gadites took their inheritance that Moses gave them on the east side of the Jordan, just as the servant of Jehovah had given them, from Aroer, which is on the rim of the Arnon Valley, and the city that is in the middle of the valley, and all the tableland of Medeba as far as Dibon, and all the cities of King Sihon of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, up to the border of the Ammonites. Also Gilead and the territory of the Geshurites and the Maacathites, and all Mount Hermon and as far as Salika, all the royal realm of Og in Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth and in Edrei. He was one of the last of the Rephaim. Moses defeated them and drove them out. But the Israelites did not drive out the Geshurites and the Maacathites, for Gesher and Maacath live in the midst of Israel to this day. It was only to the tribe of the Levites that he did not give an inheritance. The offerings made by fire to Jehovah the God of Israel are their inheritance, just as he promised them. Then Moses gave an inheritance of the Reubenites by their families, and their territory was from Aroer, which is on the rim of the Arnon Valley, and the city in the middle of the valley, and all Heshbon and all its towns on the tableland, Dibon, Bamoth Baal, Beth Baal Meon, Jahaz, Kedemoth, Mephaath, Kiriathaim, Sibmah, and Zerath Shahar on the mountain of the valley, Beth Peor, the slopes of Pisgah, Beth Jeshemoth, all the cities of the land, and all the royal realm of King Sihon of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon. Moses defeated him and the Midianite chieftains Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, vassals of Sihon who were dwelling in the land. Balaam the son of Beor, the diviner, was one whom the Israelites killed with the sword, along with the slain. The boundary of the Reubenites was the Jordan, and this territory was the inheritance of the Reubenites by their families, with the cities and their settlements. Furthermore, Moses gave an inheritance to the tribe of Gad, the Gadites by their families, and their territory included Jazer and all the cities of Gilead and half of the land of the Ammonites, as far as Aroer, which faces Rabbah, and from Heshbon to Ramoth Mizpah and Betanim, and from Mahanaim to the border of Debir, and in the valley Beth Haram, Beth Nimrah, Succoth, and Zaphon, the rest of the royal realm of King Sihon of Heshbon, with the Jordan as the border from the lower end of the Sea of Kinnereth on the east side of the Jordan. This was the inheritance of the Gadites by their families, with the cities and their settlements. Further, Moses gave an inheritance to the half-tribe of Manasseh, to half of the tribe of Manasseh by their families, and their territory extended from Mahanaim and took in all of Bashan, all the royal realm of King Og of Bashan, and all the tent villages of Jair and Bashan, 60 towns. Of Gilead and Ashtaroth and Edrei, the cities of the royal realm of Og and Bashan, went to the sons of Machir the son of Manasseh, to half of the sons of Machir by their families. These were the inheritances that Moses gave them on the desert plains of Moab beyond the Jordan, east of Jericho. But to the tribe of the Levites, Moses...
Nope. I'm sorry.
Not given inheritance. Jehovah the God their inheritance, just as he promised them. Chapter 14. Now this is what the Israelites took as an inheritance in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun and the heads of the paternal houses of the tribes of Israel gave them to inherit. Their inheritance was by lot, just as Jehovah had commanded through Moses for the 9.5 tribes. Moses had given the inheritance of the other 2.5 tribes on the other side of the Jordan, and to the Levites he did not give an inheritance among them. The descendants of Joseph were considered two tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, and they did not give a share in the land to the Levites, cities to dwell in, and their pastures for their livestock and their property. So the Israelites apportioned the land just as Jehovah had commanded Moses. Then the men of Judah approached Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite said to him,
"You well know what Jehovah said to Moses, the man of the true God, about you and me at Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of Jehovah, sent me out of Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I returned with a forthright report. Although my brothers who went up with me caused the people to lose heart, I followed Jehovah my God wholeheartedly. Moses swore on that day, saying, 'The land on which your foot has walked will become a lasting inheritance for you and your sons, because you have followed Jehovah my God wholeheartedly.' Now, just as he promised, Jehovah has preserved me alive these 45 years since Jehovah made this promise to Moses when Israel walked in the wilderness. I am still here today, 85 years old. And today I am as strong as on the day Moses sent me out. My strength is now as it was then, for war and for other activities. Therefore, give me this mountainous region that Jehovah promised on that day. Though you heard on that day that there were Anakim there with great fortified cities, surely Jehovah will be with me, and I will drive them out, just as Jehovah promised."
So Joshua blessed him and gave Hebron to Caleb the son of Jephunneh as an inheritance. That is why Hebron belongs to Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite as an inheritance to this day, because he followed Jehovah the God of Israel wholeheartedly. The name of Hebron was previously Kiriath Arba. Arba was the great man among the Anakim, and the land had rest from war. Chapter 15. The land allotted to the tribe of Judah for their families extended to the boundary of Edom, the wilderness of Zin, to the Negeb at its southern end. Their southern boundary ran from the extremity of the Salt Sea, from the bay that faces southward, and it extended south to the ascent of Akrabim, passed over Zin, then went up from the south to Kadesh Barnea, over to Hezron, up to Adar, and went around toward Karka. Then it passed on to Asmon and extended to the Wadi of Egypt, and the boundary ended at the sea. This was their southern boundary. The eastern boundary was the Salt Sea, up to the end of the Jordan.
You sneak
And the boundary
a
at the northern corner was at the bay of the sea, at the end of the Jordan. The boundary went up to Beth Hoglah and passed over at the north of Beth Araba. And the boundary went up to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben. The boundary went up to Debir at the valley of Achor and turned northward to Gilgal, which is in front of the ascent of Adummim, that is south of the Wadi. And the boundary passed over to the waters of En-Shemesh and ended at En-Rogel. The boundary went up to the valley of the son of Hinnom, to the slope of the Jebusite at the south, that is, Jerusalem. And the boundary went up to the top of the mountain that faces the valley of Hinnom to the west, which is at the extremity of the valley of Rephaim to the north. And the boundary was marked from the top of the mountain to the spring of the waters of Nephtoah, and extended to the cities of Mount Ephron. And the boundary was marked to Baalah, that is, Kiriath Jearim. The boundary went around from Baalah westward to Mount Seir, and passed over to the slope of Mount Jearim at the north, that is, Kesalon. And it went down to Beth Shemesh, and passed over to Timnah. And the boundary extended to the slope of Ekron to the north, and the boundary was marked to Shikharon, and passed over to Mount Baalah, and extended to Jabneel. And the boundary ended at the sea. The western boundary was at the Great Sea and its coast. This was the boundary of the descendants of Judah by their families on all sides. And to Caleb the son of Jephunneh, he gave a share among the descendants of Judah at the order of Jehovah to Joshua, namely Kiriath Arba. Arba was the father of Anak, that is, Hebron. So Caleb drove out from there the 3 sons of Anak, Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, descendants of Anak. Then he went up from there against the inhabitants of Debir. The name of Debir was previously Kiriath Sepher. Caleb then said,
To the man who strikes Kiriath Sepher and captures it, I will give my daughter Aksa as a wife.
And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's brother, captured it. So he gave him his daughter Aksa as a wife. While she was going home, she urged him to ask her father for a field. Then she dismounted from her donkey. Caleb asked her,
What do you want?
She said,
Please, grant me a blessing, for you have given me a piece of land in the south. Give me also Galath-Maim.
So he gave her Upper Galath and Lower Galath. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Judah by their families. The cities at the extremity of the tribe of Judah toward the boundary of Edom in the south were Kabzeel, Eder, Jager, Kaina, Dimona, Adada, Kedesh, Hazor, Ithnan, Ziph, Telam, Bealoth, Hazor Hadada, and Kiriath Hezron, that is, Hazor, Amam, Shema, Moleda, Hazar Gada, Heshmon, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, Beersheba, Biziothiah, Baalah, Ayam, Ezem, Eltolad, Kizel, Horma, Ziklag, Madmana, Sansana, Lebaoth, Shilhim, Ain, and Rimmon, a total of 29 cities together with their settlements. In the Shephelah there were Eshtaol,
Oh boy, these names.
Zorah, Ashna, Zanoah, En-Ganim,
Good.
Tapua, Enam, Jarmuth, Adullam.
Good morning, Carol. How are you? How are you, Carol?
Soko, Azekah, Shearaim, Adithaim, and Gedera and Gederothaim, 14 cities and their settlements. Zenan, Hadashah, Migdalgad, Dilian, Mizpah, Joktheel, Lachish, Bozkath, Eglon, Kabon, Lamam, Kitlish, Gederoth, Beth Dagon, Naamah, and Makkedah, 16
Makkedah.
cities and their settlements. Libnah,
Get away from
Ether,
her.
Ashan, Iftah, Ashna, Nezib, Kyla, Akzib, and Marisha, 9 cities and their settlements. Ekron and its dependent towns and its settlements. From Ekron westward, all that is alongside Ashdod and their settlements. Ashdod, its dependent towns and its settlements. Gaza, its dependent towns and its settlements. Down to the Wadi of Egypt, the Great Sea, and the adjacent region. And in the mountainous region, Shamir, Jatir, Soko, Dana, Kiriath Sana, that is Debir, Anab, Eshtemoh, Anim, Goshen, Holon, and Gilo, 11 cities and their settlements. Arab, Duma, Eshan, Janim, Beth Tapua, Aphekah, Humta, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, and Zior, 9 cities and their settlements. Maon, Carmel, Ziph, Jutta, Jezreel, Jokdeam, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 cities and their settlements. Halhol, Beth-Zur, Gedor, Maarath, Beth-Anath, and Eltekon, 6 cities and their settlements. Kiriath Baal, that is, Kiriath Jearim, and Rabbah, 2 cities and their settlements. In the wilderness, Beth Araba, Middin, Sekeka, Nibshan, the city of salt, and En Gedi, 6 cities and their settlements. As for the Jebusites who were dwelling in Jerusalem, the men of Judah were not able to drive them away. So the Jebusites continue dwelling with the people of Judah in Jerusalem to this day. Chapter 16. And the land that fell by lot to the descendants of Joseph was from the Jordan at Jericho to the waters east of Jericho, through the wilderness going up from Jericho into the mountainous region of Bethel. It extended from Bethel, belonging to Luz, and continued to the boundary of the Archites at Ataroth. Then it went down westward to the boundary of the Japhletites, as far as the boundary of lower Beth-horon and Gezer, and it ended at the sea. So Joseph's descendants, Manasseh and Ephraim, took possession of their land. The boundary of the descendants of Ephraim by their families was as follows. The boundary of their inheritance to the east was Ataroth Adar, as far as upper Beth-horon, and the boundary extended to the sea. Mikmetheth was on the north, and the boundary went around east to Taanath Shiloh, and it passed on the east to Genoa. Then it went down from Genoa to Ataroth and Naarah, and reached to Jericho, and extended to the Jordan. From Tappuah, the boundary continued westward to the Wadi of Cana, and it ended at the sea. This is the inheritance of the tribe of Ephraim by their families. The descendants of Ephraim also had enclave cities in the midst of the inheritance of Manasseh, all the cities and their settlements. But they did not drive away the Canaanites who were dwelling in Gezer, and the Canaanites continue to dwell among Ephraim to this day, and have been subjected to forced labor. Chapter 17. Then the lot fell for the tribe of Manasseh, because he was Joseph's firstborn. Since Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh and the father of Gilead, was a man of war, he received Gilead and Bashan. And the lot fell for the rest of the descendants of Manasseh according to their families. For the sons of Abiezer, the sons of Helek, the sons of Azriel, the sons of Shechem, the sons of Hepher, and the sons of Shemida. These were the descendants of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the males according to their families. But Zelophehad, the son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, did not have sons, only daughters. And these were the names of his daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Haglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. So they presented themselves before Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, and the chieftains, saying,
"It was Jehovah who commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our brothers."
So at the order of Jehovah, he gave them an inheritance among the brothers of their father. There were also 10 allotments that fell to Manasseh apart from the land of Gilead and Bashan, which were on the other side of the Jordan. For the daughters of Manasseh received an inheritance along with his sons, and the land of Gilead became the property of the rest of the descendants of Manasseh. And the boundary of Manasseh was from Asher to Mikmetheth, which faces Shechem, and the boundary continued toward the south to the land of the inhabitants of Tappuah. The land of Tappuah became Manasseh's, but Tappuah on Manasseh's boundary belonged to the descendants of Ephraim. And the boundary went down to the Wadi of Cana, south of the Wadi. There were cities of Ephraim among the cities of Manasseh, and the boundary of Manasseh was on the north of the Wadi, and it ended at the sea. To the south it belonged to Ephraim, and to the north it belonged to Manasseh, and the sea was his boundary. And on the north they reached to Asher, and on the east to Issachar. In the territories of Issachar and Asher, Manasseh was given Bethshean and its dependent towns, Ibleam and its dependent towns, the inhabitants of Dor and its dependent towns, the inhabitants of Endor and its dependent towns, the inhabitants of Taanach and its dependent towns, and the inhabitants of Megiddo and its dependent towns, 3 of the heights. But the descendants of Manasseh were not able to take possession of these cities. The Canaanites persisted in dwelling in this land. When the Israelites grew strong, they subjected the Canaanites to forced labor, but they did not drive them out entirely. The descendants of Joseph said to Joshua,
"Why have you given us as an inheritance only one lot and one allotment?"
We are a numerous people, for Jehovah has blessed us until now.
Joshua replied to them, "If you are such a numerous people, go up to the forest and clear out a place for yourself there in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaim, since the mountainous region of Ephraim is too cramped for you." Then the descendants of Joseph said,
"The mountainous region is not enough for us, and all the Canaanites who are dwelling in the land of the valley have war chariots with iron sides, both those in Bethshean and its dependent towns, and those in the valley of Jezreel."
So Joshua said this to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh, "You are a numerous people, and you have great power. You will not receive only one lot, but the mountainous region will also be yours. Although it is a forest, you will clear it, and it will be the extremity of your territory. For you will drive away the Canaanites, even though they are strong and have war chariots with iron sides." Chapter 18. Then all the assembly of the Israelites congregated at Shiloh, and they set up the tent of meeting there, as the land was now subdued before them. But there were still 7 tribes left of the Israelites whose inheritance had not been allotted. So Joshua said to the Israelites, "How long will you put off going in to take possession of the land that Jehovah the God of your forefathers has given you? Give me 3 men from each tribe to send out. They should go out and walk throughout the land and map it out according to their inheritance. Then they should return to me. They must apportion it among themselves into 7 shares. Judah will remain in his territory to the south, and the house of Joseph will remain in their territory to the north. As for you, map out the land into 7 shares, and bring them here to me, and I will cast lots here for you before Jehovah our God. But the Levites will not be given a share among you, because the priesthood of Jehovah is their inheritance. And Gad, Reuben, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have already taken their inheritance on the east side of the Jordan, which Moses, the servant of Jehovah, gave them." The men prepared to go, and Joshua commanded those who were to map out the land, "Go and walk through the land and map it out, and return to me, and I will cast lots for you here before Jehovah in Shiloh." With that, the men went and traveled through the land and mapped it out by cities into 7 shares, recording it in a book. After that, they returned to Joshua at the camp in Shiloh. Joshua then cast lots for them in Shiloh before Jehovah. There Joshua apportioned the land to the Israelites by their shares. The lot came up for the tribe of Benjamin by their families, and the territory of their lot was between the people of Judah and the people of Joseph. On the north side, their boundary started at the Jordan, and the boundary went up to the slope of Jericho on the north and went up on the mountain westward, and it extended to the wilderness of Bethaven. And the boundary continued from there to Luz, at the southern slope of Luz, that is, Bethel. The boundary went down to Adaroth-Adar, on the mountain that is south of Lower Beth-horon. And the boundary was marked at the western side and went around toward the south, from the mountain that faces Beth-horon to the south. It ended at Kiriath Baal, that is, Kiriath Jearim, a city of Judah. This is the western side. The south side was from the extremity of Kiriath Jearim, and the boundary extended westward. It went out to the spring of the waters of Nephtoah. The boundary went down to the extremity of the mountain that faces the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is in the valley of Rephaim to the north. And it went down to the valley of Hinnom, to the slope of the Jebusite on the south, and down to En-Rogel. And it was marked northward and extended to En-Shemesh, and then out to Galiloth, which is in front of the ascent of Adummim. And it went down to the stone of Bohan the son of Reuben. And it continued to the northern slope in front of the Arabah, and went down to the Arabah. And the boundary continued to the northern slope of Beth-Hoglah, and the boundary ended at the northern bay of the Salt Sea, at the southern end of the Jordan. This was the southern boundary. And the Jordan served as its boundary on the eastern side. This was the inheritance of the descendants of Benjamin by their families, according to its boundaries on all sides. And the cities of the tribe of Benjamin by their families were Jericho, Beth Hogla, Emek Keziz, Beth Araba, Zemaraim, Bethel, Avim, Pera, Ophrah, Kephar Ammonai, Ophni, and Geba, 12 cities and their settlements. Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mizpah, Kephirah, Moza, Rechem, Irpiel, Tarala, Zela, Haeleph, Jebusi, that is, Jerusalem, Gibeah, and Kiriath, 14 cities and their settlements. This was the inheritance of the descendants of Benjamin by their families. Chapter 19. Then the second lot came out for Simeon, for the tribe of Simeon by their families, and their inheritance was within the inheritance of Judah. Their inheritance was Beersheba with Sheba, Moleda, Hazar Shual, Bela, Ezem, El-Tolad, Bethel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazar Susa, Beth Lebaoth, and Sharuin, 13 cities and their settlements. Ain, Rimmon, Ether, and Ashan, 4 cities and their settlements. And all the settlements that were around these cities, as far as Baalath Beer, Ramah of the south. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Simeon by their families. The inheritance of the descendants of Simeon was taken out of the allotment of Judah, because the share of Judah was too large for them. So the descendants of Simeon received a possession within their inheritance. Next, the third lot came up for the descendants of Zebulun by their families, and the boundary of their inheritance went as far as Sarid. Their boundary went up westward to Mariel and reached to Dabasheth, and then to the valley in front of Jokneam. And it went from Sarid eastward toward the sunrise, to the border of Kisloth Tabor, and out to Daberath, and then up to Japhiah. And from there it continued eastward toward the sunrise to Gath-Hepher, to Ethkazin, and out to Rimmon, and it extended to Neah. And the boundary went around it on the north to Hanathon, and it ended at the valley of Iftael, and Kattith, Nehalo, Shimron, Idalah, and Bethlehem, 12 cities and their settlements. This was the inheritance of the descendants of Zebulun by their families. These were the cities and their settlements. The fourth lot came out for Issachar, for the descendants of Issachar by their families, and their boundary was to Jezreel, Casuluth, Shunem, Hapharaim, Shion, Anaharath, Rabbith, Kishion, Ebez, Remeth, Enganim, Enhada, and Beth Pazzez. And the boundary reached to Tabor and Shehazuma and Beth Shemesh, and the end of their border was at the Jordan, 16 cities and their settlements. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Issachar by their families, the cities and their settlements. Then the fifth lot came out for the tribe of Asher by their families, and their boundary was Helkath, Halai, Betem, Akshaph, Elimelech, Amad, and Mishal. It reached westward to Carmel and to Shihor-Libnath, and it went back toward the east to Beth Dagon, and reached to Zebulun and the valley of Iftael to the north, to Beth Emek and Neiel, and it extended to Cabel on the left, and to Ebron, Rehob, Hammon, and Cana as far as Great Sidon. And the boundary went back to Ramah, and as far as the fortified city of Tyre. Then the boundary went back to Hosa, and it ended at the sea in the region of Akzib, Ummah, Aphek, and Rehob, 22 cities and their settlements. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Asher by their families. These were the cities and their settlements. The sixth lot came out for the descendants of Naphtali, by their families. Their boundary was from Heleph, from the big tree in Zaanannim, and Adami-Nekeb and Jabneel as far as Lachim, and it ended at the Jordan. The boundary went back westward to Aznoth Tabor, and extended from there to Hukkok, and reached to Zebulun on the south, and to Asher on the west, and to Judah at the Jordan toward the east. And the fortified cities were Ziddim, Zur, Hamath, Rakith, Kinnereth, Adamah, Ramah, Hazor, Kedesh, Edrei, and Hazor, Yiron, Migdalel, Horem, Bethanath, and Bethshemesh, 19 cities and their settlements. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Naphtali by their families, the cities and their settlements. The seventh lot came out for the tribe of Dan by their families, and the border of their inheritance was Zorah, Eshtaol, Irshemesh, Shealabin, Aijalon, Ithla, Elon, Timnah, Ekron, Eltekah, Gibbethon, Baalath, Jehud, Benabirak, Gath-Rimmon, Najarkon, and Rakkon, with the border facing Joppa. But the territory of Dan was too cramped for them, so they went up and fought against Leshem and captured it and struck it with the sword. Then they took possession of it and settled in it, and they changed the name of Leshem to Dan, after the name of Dan their forefather. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Dan by their families. These were the cities and their settlements. Thus they finished dividing the land for inheritance by its territories. Then the Israelites gave Joshua the son of Nun an inheritance in their midst. At the order of Jehovah, they gave him the city he asked for, Timnath-Serah, in the mountainous region of Ephraim, and he built up the city and settled in it. These were the inheritances that Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the paternal houses of the tribes of Israel distributed by lot in Shiloh before Jehovah, at the entrance of the tent of meeting. So they finished apportioning the land. Chapter 20. Then Jehovah said to Joshua, "Tell the Israelites, select for yourselves the cities of refuge about which I spoke to you through Moses, so that the manslayer who unintentionally or accidentally kills someone may flee there, and they will serve as a refuge for you from the avenger of blood. He must flee to one of these cities and stand at the entrance of the city gate, and present his case in the hearing of the elders of that city. Then they must receive him into the city and give him a place, and he will live with them. If the avenger of blood chases after him, they should not surrender the manslayer into his hand, for he killed his fellow man accidentally, and he did not previously hate him. He must dwell in that city until he stands trial before the assembly, and remain there until the death of the high priest who is in office at that time. Then the manslayer may return to the city from which he fled, and he may enter his city and his house." So they gave a sacred status to Kedesh in Galilee, in the mountainous region of Naphtali, Shechem in the mountainous region of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the mountainous region of Judah. In the region of the Jordan, east of Jericho, they selected Bezer in the wilderness on the tableland out of the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in Gilead out of the tribe of Gad, and Golan in Bashan out of the tribe of Manasseh. These became the cities appointed for all the Israelites and for the foreign residents residing among them, so that anyone who unintentionally killed someone could flee there and not die by the hand of the avenger of blood, prior to standing trial before the assembly. Chapter 21. The heads of the paternal houses of the Levites now approached Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the paternal houses of the tribes of Israel, and they spoke to them in Shiloh in the land of Canaan, saying,
Jehovah through Moses commanded that we be given cities in which to dwell, along with their pastures for our livestock.
So at the order of Jehovah, the Israelites gave the Levites these cities and their pastures out of their own inheritance. The lot came out for the families of the Kohathites, and the Levites who were descendants of Aaron the priest were given by lot 13 cities out of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Simeon, and the tribe of Benjamin. And for the rest of the Kohathites, there were allotted 10 cities out of the families of the tribe of Ephraim, the tribe of Dan, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. And for the Gershonites, there were allotted 13 cities out of the families of the tribe of Issachar, the tribe of Asher, the tribe of Naphtali, and the half-tribe of Manasseh in Bashan. For the Merarites by their families, there were 12 cities out of the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the tribe of Zebulun. Thus the Israelites gave the Levites these cities and their pastures by lot, just as Jehovah had commanded through Moses. So from the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Simeon, they gave these cities here mentioned by name, and they were given to the sons of Aaron of the Kohathite families of the Levites, because they received the first lot. They gave them Kiriath Arba. Arba was the father of Anak, that is, Hebron, in the mountainous region of Judah, and its surrounding pastures. But the field of the city and its settlements they gave to Caleb the son of Jephunneh as his possession. And to the sons of Aaron the priest, they gave the city of refuge for the manslayer, namely, Hebron with its pastures, also Libnah with its pastures, Jatir with its pastures, Eshtemoa with its pastures, Holon with its pastures, Debir with its pastures, Ain with its pastures, Juttah with its pastures, and Beth Shemesh with its pastures, 9 cities out of these 2 tribes. And from the tribe of Benjamin, Gibeon with its pastures, Geba with its pastures, Anathoth with its pastures, and Almon with its pastures, 4 cities. All the cities given to the descendants of Aaron, the priests, were 13 cities with their pastures. And the rest of the Kohathite families among the Levites were given by lot cities from the tribe of Ephraim. They gave them the city of refuge for the manslayer, namely Shechem with its pastures in the mountainous region of Ephraim, Gezer with its pastures, Kibzaim with its pastures, and Beth-horon with its pastures, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Dan, Eltekeh with its pastures, Gibbethon with its pastures, Aijalon with its pastures, Gathrimmon with its pastures, 4 cities. And from the half-tribe of Manasseh, Taanach with its pastures, and Gathrimmon with its pastures, 2 cities. All the cities together with their pastures that the rest of the families of the Kohathites received were 10. And the Gershonites of the families of the Levites received from the half-tribe of Manasseh the city of refuge for the manslayer, namely Golan in Bashan with its pastures, and Beeshterah with its pastures, 2 cities. And from the tribe of Issachar, Kishion with its pastures, Daberath with its pastures, Jarmuth with its pastures, and Engannim with its pastures, 4 cities. Abdon with its pastures, Helkath with its pastures, and Rehob with its pastures, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Naphtali, the city of refuge for the manslayer, namely Kedesh in Galilee with its pastures, Hamathdor with its pastures, and Kartan with its pastures, 3 cities. All the cities of the Gershonites by their families were 13 cities with their pastures. And the families of the Merarites, the rest of the Levites, received from the tribe of Zebulun, Jokneam with its pastures, Karta with its pastures, Dimnah with its pastures, and Nahalal with its pastures, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Reuben, Bezer with its pastures, Jahaz with its pastures, Kedemoth with its pastures, and Mephaath with its pastures, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Gad, the city of refuge for the manslayer, namely Ramoth and Gilead with its pastures, Mahanaim with its pastures, Heshbon with its pastures, and Jazer with its pastures, a total of 4 cities. All the cities that were allotted to the Merarites by their families, the rest of the families of the Levites, were 12 cities. All the cities of the Levites within the possession of the Israelites were 48 cities together with their pastures. Each of these cities had its pastures all around it. This was the case for all these cities. So Jehovah gave Israel all the land that he had sworn to give to their forefathers, and they took possession of it and settled in it. Furthermore, Jehovah gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn to their forefathers, and not one of all their enemies could stand against them. Jehovah gave all their enemies into their hand. Not a promise failed out of all the good promises that Jehovah had made to the house of Israel. All of them came true. Chapter 22. Then Joshua summoned the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and said to them, "You have done all that Moses the servant of Jehovah commanded you, and you have obeyed my voice in all that I commanded you. You have not forsaken your brothers all this time, down to this day, and you have kept the obligation of the commandment of Jehovah your God. Now Jehovah your God has given your brothers rest, just as he promised them. So now you may return to your tents in the land that Moses, the servant of Jehovah, gave you to possess on the other side of the Jordan. Only be very careful to carry out the commandment and the law that Moses, the servant of Jehovah, gave you, by loving Jehovah your God, by walking in all his ways, by keeping his commandments, by sticking to him, and by serving him with all your heart and with all your soul." Then Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. And to the half-tribe of Manasseh, Moses had given an inheritance in Bashan, and to the other half of the tribe, Joshua gave land on the west side of the Jordan, along with their brothers. Moreover, when Joshua sent them away to their tents, he blessed them and said to them, "Return to your tents with many riches, with very much livestock, with silver and gold, copper and iron, and garments in very great quantity. Take your share of the spoil of your enemies, along with your brothers." After that, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh departed from the other Israelites, from Shiloh in the land of Canaan, and they returned to the land of Gilead, the land of their possession where they had settled at the order of Jehovah through Moses. When they came to the regions of the Jordan in the land of Canaan, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh built an altar there by the Jordan, a large, impressive altar. Later, the other Israelites heard it said,
Look, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have built an altar on the frontier of the land of Canaan, in the regions of the Jordan on the side belonging to the Israelites.
When the Israelites heard about it, the whole assembly of the Israelites congregated at Shiloh to go to war against them. Then the Israelites sent Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh in the land of Gilead, and 10 chieftains were with him, 1 chieftain of each paternal house of all the tribes of Israel, each a head of his paternal house among the thousands of Israel. When they came to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh in the land of Gilead, they said to them,
This is what all the assembly of Jehovah says. What is this act of unfaithfulness that you have committed against the God of Israel? You have turned back today from following Jehovah by building yourselves an altar and rebelling against Jehovah. Was the error of Peor not enough for us? We have not cleansed ourselves from it down to this day, even though a plague came upon the assembly of Jehovah. And you would turn back today from following Jehovah. If you rebel today against Jehovah, then tomorrow he will be indignant against the entire assembly of Israel. Now, if it is because the land of your possession is unclean, cross over to the land of Jehovah's possession where the tabernacle of Jehovah resides, and settle among us. But do not rebel against Jehovah, and do not make us rebels by building yourselves an altar in addition to the altar of Jehovah our God. When Achan, the son of Zerah, committed an act of unfaithfulness regarding what was devoted to destruction, did not indignation come against all the assembly of Israel? And he was not the only man to die for his error.
At this, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh said in answer to the heads of the thousands of Israel,
"The God of gods, Jehovah, the God of gods, Jehovah, he knows, and Israel will also know. If we were rebellious and unfaithful to Jehovah, do not spare us this day. If we built ourselves an altar to turn back from following Jehovah, and to offer burnt offerings, grain offerings, and communion sacrifices on it, Jehovah will exact the penalty. No, it was because of another concern that we did this. For we said, in the future, your sons will say to our sons, 'What do you have to do with Jehovah, the God of Israel? Jehovah has put the Jordan as a boundary between us and you, the Reubenites and the Gadites. You have no share in Jehovah. And your sons will hinder our sons from worshiping Jehovah.' So we said, let us by all means take action by building an altar, not for burnt offerings or sacrifices, but to be a witness between you and us, and our descendants after us, that we will carry out our service to Jehovah before him with our burnt offerings and our sacrifices and our communion sacrifices, so that your sons may not say to our sons in the future, 'You have no share in Jehovah.' So we said, if they should say that to us and to our descendants in the future, we will then say, 'See the replica of Jehovah's altar that our forefathers made, not for burnt offerings or sacrifices, but to be a witness between you and us.' It is unthinkable for us to rebel against Jehovah and to turn back today from following Jehovah by building an altar for burnt offerings, grain offerings, and sacrifices other than the altar of Jehovah our God that is before his tabernacle."
When Phinehas the priest, the chieftains of the assembly, and the heads of the thousands of Israel who were with him heard the words that the descendants of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh spoke, they were satisfied. So Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest said to the descendants of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh,
Today we know that Jehovah is among us, because
Stay
you
still,
have
listen.
not committed this act of unfaithfulness against Jehovah. Now you have saved the Israelites out of the hand of Jehovah.
Then Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest and the chieftains returned from the Reubenites and the Gadites in the land of Gilead to the land of Canaan, and they brought back word to the other Israelites. And the Israelites were satisfied with the report. The Israelites then praised God, and they said nothing more about going to war against the Reubenites and the Gadites to destroy the land in which they were dwelling. So the Reubenites and the Gadites named the altar, because it is a witness between us that Jehovah is the true God. Chapter 23. Many days after Jehovah had given Israel rest from all its surrounding enemies, when Joshua was old and advanced in years, Joshua summoned all Israel, its elders, its heads, its judges, and its officers, and he said to them, I have grown old. I am advanced in years, and you have seen for yourselves all that Jehovah your God did to all these nations in your behalf, because Jehovah your God was the one who was fighting for you. See, I assign to you by lot the land of the nations that remain, as an inheritance for your tribes, as well as that of all the nations that I destroyed, from the Jordan to the great sea on the west. And Jehovah your God was the one who kept thrusting them away from before you, and he drove them out for you, and you took possession of their land, just as Jehovah your God promised you. Now you must be very courageous to observe and carry out all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, by never deviating from it to the right or to the left, by never mingling with these nations that remain with you. You must not even mention the names of their gods, nor swear by them. And you must never serve them, nor bow down to them. But you must stick to Jehovah your God, just as you have done down to this day. Jehovah will drive away great and mighty nations from before you, for not a man has been able to stand before you to this day. Just one man of you will chase 1,000, because Jehovah your God is fighting for you, just as he promised you. So be on guard constantly by loving Jehovah your God. But if you should turn back at all, and stick to what is left of these nations that remain with you, and you form marriage alliances with them, and associate with them, and they with you, you should know for sure that Jehovah your God will not continue to drive out these nations for you. They will become a trap and a snare and a scourge on your flanks and thorns in your eyes until you have perished from this good land that Jehovah your God has given you. Now look, I am about to die, and you well know with all your heart and with all your soul that not one word out of all the good promises that Jehovah your God has spoken to you has failed. They have all come true for you. Not one word of them has failed. But just as all the good promises that Jehovah your God has spoken to you have come upon you, so Jehovah will bring upon you all the calamity that he promised, and will annihilate you from this good land that Jehovah your God has given you. If you violate the covenant of Jehovah your God that he commanded you to keep, and if you go and serve other gods and bow down to them, then Jehovah's anger will blaze against you, and you will quickly perish from the good land that he has given you. Chapter 24.
Last one, guys.
Joshua then assembled all the tribes of Israel together at Shechem, and summoned the elders of Israel, its heads, its judges, and its officers, and they stood before the true God. Joshua said to all the people, "This is what Jehovah, the God of Israel, says. It was on the other side of the river that your forefathers lived a long time ago, Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nahor, and they used to serve other gods. In time I took your forefather Abraham from the other side of the river and had him walk through all the land of Canaan and made his offspring many. I gave him Isaac. Then to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. Later to Esau I gave Mount Seir as his possession, and Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt. I later sent Moses and Aaron, and I plagued Egypt with what I did among them. And then I brought you out. When I was bringing your fathers out of Egypt, and you came to the sea, the Egyptians were chasing after your fathers with war chariots and cavalrymen as far as the Red Sea. They began to cry out to Jehovah. So he placed a darkness between you and the Egyptians, and brought the sea over them and covered them, and your own eyes saw what I did in Egypt. Then you dwelled in the wilderness many years. And I brought you to the land of the Amorites, who were dwelling on the other side of the Jordan, and they fought against you. But I gave them into your hand so that you could take possession of their land, and I annihilated them from before you. Then Balak, son of Zippor, the king of Moab, rose up and fought against Israel. So he summoned Balaam, the son of Beor, to curse you. But I would not listen to Balaam. So he blessed you repeatedly, and I rescued you from his hand. Then you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho. And the leaders of Jericho, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites fought against you, but I gave them into your hand. So I sent the feeling of dejection ahead of you, and it drove them out from before you, 2 kings of the Amorites. It was not by your sword and not by your bow. Thus I gave you a land for which you had not toiled, and cities that you had not built, and you settled in them. You are eating from vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. Therefore, fear Jehovah and serve him with integrity and faithfulness, and remove the gods that your forefathers served on the other side of the river and in Egypt, and serve Jehovah. Now if it seems bad to you to serve Jehovah, choose for yourselves today whom you will serve, whether the gods that your forefathers served on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are dwelling. But as for me and my household, we will serve Jehovah." At this the people answered,
It is unthinkable for us to abandon Jehovah and to serve other gods. It is Jehovah our God who brought us and our fathers up out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, and who performed these great signs before our eyes, and who kept guarding us the entire way in which we walked, and among all the peoples through whom we passed. Jehovah drove out all the peoples, including the Amorites, who lived in the land before us. Therefore, we too will serve Jehovah, because he is our God.
Then Joshua said to the people, "You are not able to serve Jehovah, for he is a holy God. He is a God who requires exclusive devotion. He will not pardon your transgressions and your sins. If you abandon Jehovah and serve foreign gods, he will also turn against you and exterminate you after doing good for you." But the people said to Joshua,
No, but we will serve Jehovah.
So Joshua said to the people, "You are witnesses against yourselves that of your own accord you have chosen for yourselves to serve Jehovah." To this they said,
We are witnesses.
"Therefore remove the foreign gods that are among you, and incline your hearts to Jehovah the God of Israel." The people said to Joshua,
We will serve Jehovah, our God, and we will obey his voice.
So Joshua made a covenant with the people on that day and established a regulation and a ruling for them in Shechem. Then Joshua wrote these words in the book of God's law, and took a great stone and set it up under the large tree that is by the sanctuary of Jehovah. Joshua went on to say to all the people, "Look, this stone will serve as a witness against us, because it has heard everything Jehovah said to us. And it will serve as a witness against you, so that you may not deny your God." With that, Joshua sent the people away, each one to his inheritance.
After these things, Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of Jehovah, died at the age of 110. So they buried him in the territory of his inheritance in Timnath-Serah, which is in the mountainous region of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. Israel continued to serve Jehovah all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua, and who had known all of Jehovah's deeds in behalf of Israel. The bones of Joseph, which the Israelites had brought up out of Egypt, were buried in Shechem, in the portion of the field that Jacob had acquired from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money, and it became the inheritance of the sons of Joseph. Also, Eleazar, the son of Aaron, died. So they buried him in the hill of Phinehas his son, which had been given to him in the mountainous region of Ephraim.
And that is it. But before we go, we will read the verse of the day, which is provided by Carol. It's in the chat. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 26. And let's go see if it's okay. As soon as I find it. 17. 26. Hold on. And people will come from the cities of Judah, from the places around Jerusalem, from the land of Benjamin, from the lowland, from the mountainous region, and from the Negeb, bringing whole burnt offerings, sacrifices, grain offerings, frankincense, and thanksgiving sacrifices into the house of Judah, Jehovah. Sorry. Thank you, Jennifer, for that message. Get down for a second. Passage. Thank you for the passage. I'm sorry, I meant to say Jehovah, not Judah. Sorry, Jehovah. I love you, Carol. Thank you for that. I hope you're feeling better, and I hope your day goes happy. So I love you, Jehovah. Love you, everybody. Love, don't judge. Peace out.